Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the Venture Outfitter Weekly. Thank you for joining us today on a very important day, the Ukrainian Independence Day. We have a very special program for you today, and I'm going to kind of wrap why is it that some US-based entrepreneur or Mexico-based entrepreneur or some other person in the world would want to be a part of this conversation. What's so important about Ukrainian Independence Day, and what does it represent? So today, welcome to the Venture Outfitter. The Venture Outfitter is a program where we have entrepreneurs around the world that are watching on LinkedIn, Facebook, via YouTube. And I want to say welcome to everybody that's there, as well as our studio audience on Zoom. The whole idea about here is how is it we can connect with each other around the world to support entrepreneurship worldwide. And through that, one of my premises is that all the world's problems have already been solved. It's just a matter of connecting the entrepreneur with the solution to the market with a problem. If you want more information, make sure you go to techranch.com. You can read and get involved in techranch.com at techranch.com/connect. If you're not a part of our community, there's a free place to plug in and to join. And so please do. Coming soon, next week, we're going to have one of, so I'm one of Austin, Texas's long-term entrepreneurial ecosystem leaders. We're going to hear from another long-termer, guy by the name of Tom Singer next week. He is the head of the Austin Technology Council. So if you're looking to plug into Austin, or you also would like to see some of the history about what's happened in the past, it'll be a great conversation to plug into. We will have continuing Venture Outfitter Weeklies every week on Thursdays, 11 o'clock Texas time. We just haven't announced the ones that are going to be the first two in September. But on the 14th, I will be in Florence, Italy, and I will be at the launch of the Florence-Austin Sister City relationship. TechRanch is going to be building out the business portion of that relationship, and real excited to be connecting with people in Florence. And we already have entrepreneurs from Austin that have landed in Florence in the past. So we even get a chance to interview a couple of them to talk about what's happening and what's important, stuff like that. So to kind of set the context, what is it that makes entrepreneurship possible? Now, I've been in Austin, Texas. I've been in 28 countries over the last 6 years. And one of the things that I've noticed is that there's this, this continuing kind of set of themes that make it possible. Like, what is it that makes entrepreneurship possible? You have to have the rule of law. Sometimes it's easier to do things in Texas than it is in Mexico. If you don't have strong relationships in Mexico, you're at risk. Whereas in Texas, this whole idea about, since we have the rule of law, we have, easy court systems, makes it really simple. There are other things that happen that, you can't just be a resident, you have to be a citizen. And I don't really necessarily just mean in the home country that you are. I think that we have to start looking at how we are global citizens and our responsibility to not just sort of act like we can do anything, but we have to take action. There's a guy named Marcus Aurelius, one of the guys that ruled Rome years ago, and in his Stoic way, one of his Stoic sayings is you can also commit injustice by doing nothing. And so I think it's important, as we set a context for entrepreneurship and what are the things that we want to strive for as entrepreneurs in the world to make it possible to be successful entrepreneurs, which kind of sets the table for what we're doing today with Ukrainian Independence Day. Now, I'm going to share a short video before we introduce the Honorable Consul of Ukraine based out of Houston. Well, before we do that, just a little bit of background about Ukraine in the following video.
Hello, world. I am Ukraine. I wanted to tell you about myself so we could get to know each other better. On a warm summer day on August 24th, 1991, I was born. I'm only 30, but my roots are strong, extending deep into history. My ancestors were wise and brave and instilled in me a rich culture that shaped who I am. I have my own language, my own traditions, my own cuisine. I have seas and meadows, rivers, deserts, fields, and forests. I am a beautiful woman. And my children are strong, brave, talented, smart, witty, creative, friendly, and free in spirit. I am proud of them, just as every mother is proud of her children. Proud of their inventions, their achievements, their creativity, and their diligence. Yes, I have more than 40 million of them, and like in every large family, they did not always find a common language, but our happy moments always outweighed the bad. All my years have cultivated in them a love for freedom and a desire to be free. But now, war has fallen on my family. Forces are trying to destroy me and my children's freedom, to crush it forever. As in past generations, we faced severe trials. Dark times have fallen upon us again, and my children are forced to protect us, their homes and their families, which they do skillfully despite the difficulties, because we are a real family, united together, supporting each other with our bravery and strength. Today, we fight, but we're not afraid. That's not how we were raised. We will stand, I know it. My wounds will heal, and my children will live peaceful lives once more. My name is Ukraine, and I thank you, world, for your support. We will persevere, and when this is all behind us, I'll invite you for a visit. See you soon.
That is extremely moving, and I look forward to the moment that I personally get to go to Ukraine and celebrate the success of the end of the war that's happening there unreasonably. So today we have the Honorable Consul General of Ukraine. His name is Vitalii Tarasiuk. I'm going to mispronounce his name, though, as I've done many times in the past. Vitalii has been in the diplomatic service since 2004 and has been the consul of Ukraine just a few months before the war began. He was in December 2021, became the consul general of Houston, or consul general of Ukraine in Houston. And I thought today, since we have such a special moment, the Ukrainian Independence Day, that what we would do is actually have him come on and share a little bit about what's happening in Ukraine. And part of what we're going to do is we're just going to ask some questions back and forth. We'll have a lot of time for getting questions from the audience as well. In my case, one of the things that I want to say is, I've been outsourcing software development to Ukraine all the way back to around the time of 2006, 2007, a fairly large website, a project that was done for the state of Texas, actually, years and years and years ago. The largest website that the state of Texas has, from the number of pages and the number of hits that it gets. So I've been, impressed with Ukrainian entrepreneurship, Ukrainian engineering for a very long time. But I've been concerned with what's been happening. And a lot of times, as I was mentioning earlier, the situation at hand, it just to remind you is, we as entrepreneurs, we're the purveyors of culture, where we have a moral responsibility for, as we introduce products into the world, about what we do. The expression of technology in the world is in itself how you bring this into the world. Even just that is an act, a moral act. And so you have a responsibility. All right, well, with that all being said, that's just part of my soapbox, but I want to bring Vitalii on. We're going to ask him a series of questions. Vitalii, I don't know if, let's see, I think the Jello's brought you on. can't see the normal screen. I
Yeah.
have a new Mac, and so I'm kind of getting used to the new Mac features and all that sort of stuff. But welcome. Thank you very much for being here today.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me today, especially on this, very special day for every Ukrainian in every corner of the world, because today we celebrate Ukraine's Independence Day. It's 32 years since regaining of Ukraine's independence, because Ukraine was independent many years ago, and 32 years ago, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, regained back its independence. Of course, this year, as last year, the celebration is different because we are under a full-scale invasion, but this makes it even more special because the price that Ukraine pays for independence is very high, and we pay it daily with the lives of Ukrainian soldiers and warriors that defend this independence on a daily basis. And that's why, I mean, the meaning of today's independence has much more to us value, and the price of this independence is very high. So thank you for having me today, and would be happy to share my thoughts about what's happening in Ukraine right now, how we see going forward, and definitely, since we have the business community also listening, to talk about the Ukraine potential, to talk about the reconstruction phase, to talk about the rebuilding, about the prospects and where we see our strengths and where we would like to partner most with the world. Thank you.
That's perfect. Well, I appreciate you being here today, and especially I know today's an extremely busy day for you as well. So I'm honored to have you here. Tell us a little bit. So one of the things that's always been impressive to me is just the nuance and insight that Ukrainian entrepreneurs, especially with, underpinned by their engineering talent, deliver to the world. And I've heard lots of stories of innovation and entrepreneurship that are born out of necessity are happening in the country right now because of the war. Can you give us some examples about things that have happened? And or like, we'll start with the entrepreneurs and the tools that they've gotten created. It'd be an interesting place to start.
I mean, Ukrainians have always been known for their entrepreneurship, for the innovation spirit. Not even like during the past 32 years, but even before in the 19th century. We started promoting this knowledge with the world, I would say maybe just in 2015-16. So we had a couple of books prepared that was called first 50 inventions that Ukraine best out to the world, and when we extended it to 100 inventions that Ukrainians best out to the world. And there you can find such interesting facts about the Ukraine's ingenuity and inventions, like the X-ray machine was invented by a Ukrainian, or that the helicopter Sikorsky, he's coming from Kyiv, from Ukraine, that many people also knew that. And things like that. I mean, and the founder of WhatsApp also comes from Ukraine, and like modern days technologies. You also saw in the video in the beginning PetCube, another famous startup, Grammarly, well-known company already in the Western world, also that's Ukrainians. So there are numerous examples, and we can have just the whole session devoted only about the inventions that came from Ukraine and speak only about that. We also used to, market Ukraine before the invasion as the Ukraine is about grains and brains. So obviously, this invasion showed that without Ukraine exporting agricultural product to the world, a lot of countries would be affected because we are, among top 5 exporters of grain globally, and definitely the blockade that Russia organized in the Black Sea affects many countries in Africa and in Asia, and they were and are still on the brink of starvation sometimes. But it also in the same way with Ukraine's innovations and with Ukraine's ingenuity. And you could see that even fighting during this war, Ukraine fights differently. We fight with innovation, we adapt. because of Ukraine's ingenuity. You could see how Ukraine uses civilian drones on the battlefield, how it adjusts them to be able to carry out military duties, or how Ukraine also uses artificial intelligence to better place the targets during the war. It's all part of Ukraine's innovation, ingenuity. Or there are different even examples, maybe not that well known, like for example how Ukraine was freeing the Snake Island in the Black Sea, because back then we didn't have a lot of we don't still have enough today, but back then it was even more scarce in terms of what we had. So we didn't have any long-range ammunition to be able to shoot to the Snake Island. And so Russians knew that and felt quite comfortable being on the Snake Island. So what Ukrainian army did, they put a couple of howitzers on a barge and sailed closer to the snake during the night and were shooting the Snake Island during the night from those barges. So that's also a kind of like innovational approach to how you can hit the enemy back. And so the whole war is like that. The volunteer movement, Ukrainians across the whole world, they try to find every opportunity how to use, different civilian products that could be used on the front line. And so ingenuity is everywhere right now. I mean, out of necessity, unfortunately, but it still shows the Ukraine's spirit.
It's interesting because I've read a little bit about, maybe you could tell us a little about, like even some of the there's a digital citizen app that that there's capabilities, supposedly Texas, here I live in Texas, and it's supposed to be very advanced for supporting business. But it's my understanding that as a citizen, you can do everything over your phone.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true. I mean, we have it's called in Ukrainian dia. Well, basically, you can translate it as, I don't know, action. And, in this app that most of Ukrainian citizens have, right now, even old ladies, babushkas, they have a smartphone of some kind that their, grandchildren gave to them, and they have it in their phones. And there you have access to most of the government services just with a few clicks. You don't have to go to any office to stand in line to have an appointment. You have it immediately. And we just extend the number of services that you can receive through this application regularly. So there you have your passport, you have your driving license, you have your ID, you have your kids' IDs, and you don't have to carry a driving license with you when you drive. You can just show a policeman the application. Every policeman has a scanner. He can scan and get the confirmation on his device that you are who you are. And the same way he can issue tickets if you are, speeding or something, and you can pay in this application those fines on the spot. So there's numerous things you can do there. I mean, if I have a good connection, possibly I can even show you mine so you can see how it looks like. And we actually work a lot with different governments and organizations about sharing our experiences, how we organize this year. And my colleagues in the Arab countries are, actively working, and they are very much interested to introduce something of the same kind. Also, many years ago, that many, maybe like 5 years ago, Estonia was on the front line of digital innovation, and we looked at what they did for digital services, but now they want to have our action to themselves. That shows that we in some way surpassed our teachers in the first place. So I mean,
that's one of the things about innovation, right? It's one of the reasons that I'm like, hey, maybe the state of Texas will pay attention to how simple things. Well, to have be able to like interface with the governments like at multiple levels through electronically. I mean, I had to go to the mailbox yesterday and submit and I had to buy a stamp just to send something to the state of Texas. So
Yeah.
I know I'm like, this is simple, but it's like one of the most important things for helping entrepreneurs.
Just out of curious, what you can do, the services you can do here. Well, you can organize a business just in a few clicks and open and to become a private entrepreneur. Just click on a few links here, and because all your information is already here. Your tax ID is here. Your passport is here. So I mean, the government knows who you are in this application, so easily can issue you a license to do business. Here, there are a couple of services. I mean, we just already with this invasion, everybody forgot that just recently we had a pandemic of COVID, right? So, but still, we still have, you can show the COVID certificates here about immunization. You can buy military, papers to invest in Ukraine's victory, or you can donate to buy army drones. Or there is a service if your house or apartment was destroyed by Russian invaders. There is a service where you can apply and the government will help pay you the bills for the reconstruction of your house. You don't have to go anywhere. There is services for the internally displaced people also here. There is service for people for unemployment also here. Then you can pay fines, as I said here. You can change where you legally reside also just with one click. You can pay taxes from this application and many other things too. So it's just as an example of this just one application. And we try to minimize the role of the government in the day-to-day business of citizens. So people will not have to interact as much as they used to, go into, places just for a simple solution that can be easily, solved with one click on the phone.
Yeah, no, it's pretty powerful as we think about as here in the United States, as we have the tragedy in Maui, where there are individuals who have not received any connection with from the government, any support. And there's a lot of, like the news has a number of different things. This is the sort of stuff that, I mean, there's a lot of different things I want to make sure that we point out about what's happening in Ukraine. But part of the thing that I think is important is also the surface that when we sit in Austin, Texas, or someplace else in the United States, and kind of wish that things were a little bit more accessible. Here's an example that shows that, the Ukrainian government is so attuned to what's happening to their citizenry. And the rest of us should be actually requiring that same type of interaction from ourselves as well. I mean, when I think about it, I'd really love that idea. Let me switch gears on you and ask, tell us a story or two about Ukrainian resilience. There's this long history of Ukrainian people being resilient. And some of the most beautiful stories that I've heard about have been about that. Maybe you could share a story or two.
Sure. I mean, definitely. When the full-scale invasion started on February 24th, 2022, I mean, not many people realized that the war with Russia was ongoing back then for 8 years already, because Russia attacked Ukraine in 2014 by attempting to annex Ukrainian Crimea and then occupying parts of eastern part of Ukraine, Donetsk and Lugansk region. So, and it's ongoing for 8 years. It's just, was mostly out of a news cycle for a long time, but people were dying on the front line on a daily basis since 2014. It's just that in 2021, they decided to destroy the country completely and occupy the whole country. That's why, I mean, it became more obvious, I mean, to more of the people of the Russian aggression. But, and many people, even our allies, were not given a big chance to Ukraine that we will be able to defend ourselves, because, everybody was saying, how could that be? I mean, Russia is the second biggest army in the world, and Ukraine doesn't have any capability to defend itself against such a big army if it invades Ukraine. But I mean, we all knew inside Ukraine that they were wrong. I mean, those even our friends were wrong about us with that, because the problem is that with this invasion, the world was always overestimating Russia's capacity, military capacity, and underestimating Ukraine's readiness to defend ourselves. And that's because, you know, it lies in our history, as you rightly mentioned. Not many people connect the dots. And if we just remember the history, after the Second World War, when the war was over in 1945, Ukrainian freedom fighters were fighting Soviet regime in the Western Ukraine for more than 10 years. For more than 10 years, can you imagine? I mean, and the Soviet Union could not do anything. And so, because the guerrilla war, I mean, was happening for 10 years, the local population was supporting in any way possible the freedom fighters. And the tactics of the regime, you can imagine, I mean, they were, as soon as somebody was even suspected of helping the freedom fighters, they were killed or the minimum jailed with a prison terms of 20-25 years. But still we managed to resist for almost 10 years before the resistance was destroyed. So, and then again, I mean, when Russians were thinking that they could occupy Ukraine or change the regime and change the power in Ukraine in 3 days, as they were planning, that was nonsense. And everybody of us understood that, you know, they wouldn't be able to do that. And I mean, finally, the world saw that Ukraine is willing and able to defend itself. And only after that, we started receiving support. And we still, of course, need more support for us to win this war, because as the president of European Commission, I think, rightly put it, Russia already lost this war, but Ukraine didn't win it yet, because the war is still ongoing. There's no way Russia can win this war, but we still need to win it. We still need to free all of our territories. And for that, we need more assistance. We need long-range artillery. We need aviation. And we need all of that already now to be able to free all of our lands.
Let me ask you, is there something specific that to the individuals that hear this, whether they're in Texas or other parts of the world, that they could take action towards that would be meaningful for supporting that to the cessation of the war?
Definitely, yes, of course. I mean, so many things how ordinary people can support Ukraine's fight. The simplest way where the civilian people, not the governments, but ordinary people can help Ukraine on the front line is, I would say, number one is drones, because we buy civilian drones, then the military alter them and they are being used on a daily basis. The life of those drones is not very long, so we need constantly new drones all the time. This is the reality of this war, and they're not cheap. And so donations that people can make to buy those drones are very, very much necessary. The other thing that civilian people are helping on the front line is helping buy trucks. Trucks are needed for different purposes, for infantry, for to be in a evacuation vehicle, for take the wounded back to the camps. So I would say these two plus medicine. You can easily donate and find that what we all doing. Find medical kits, tactical medical kits that are available here in the US and send it to Ukraine. And so those, I would say, three items: drones, trucks, medicine. Those are the items that every citizen, every person can easily find everywhere, and they are very much needed. There are numerous organizations, non-profits, funds that specifically work on those items. There is an initiative launched by the president of Ukraine, Zelensky. It's called United 24. This is basically a fundraising platform where you can find a couple of directions which ones you want to support, and on a regular basis, then they post what's been done, what's been purchased, how many money were collected, what they've done after that. This is a big initiative, and you can see, the real results of the actions if you support the activities of United 24. But definitely there are, a lot of other organizations, non-profits that also support the warriors, support people in Ukraine, because also this war affected a huge number of people in Ukraine. A lot of people became internally displaced inside the country, and these people need support with providing shelter, with providing for them the possibility to retrain, to get new jobs, and for their kids to go to schools. So there are different projects where people can help.
Yeah, is there
I'm happy to share with all of you all of the names of those charities that do this excellent work.
If we could, that would be great, because in the show notes, what we'll do is, one of the things that there's been a little bit of concern about is right after the war began, I know there were a bunch of different charities that said, hey, support Ukraine, and it was really hard to differentiate which ones could you trust and which ones you couldn't. So yeah, what we'll do for anyone that's listening, in the show notes, both on YouTube as well as inside of the community site, we'll make sure that we get from Vitalii some of the ones that are guaranteed to go directly to the appropriate people to help. Yeah, also, just for the sake of the reference for anyone that's wanting to track down the consulate directly, the URL for that is houston.mfa.gov.ua. And so we'll make sure that that's in the show notes. And so, for anyone out there that'd like to get involved and make a donation, that will be available. So let's switch into the a couple other different things that we've talked a little bit about the rule of law and its importance. We've talked about these collaborations. I think that just to tie this together, like because of how important it is, and I think a lot of times, especially here in the United States, we just take the rule of law and a bunch of things for granted. And I think in some ways that we've been a little bit of asleep just based on what's been happening in our politics about these type of things. Maybe you could say a little bit more about the importance of justice, rule of law, things like that and how you value them as a Ukrainian.
Well, definitely. I mean, those rule of law, how the law enforcement system works, basically creates the right conditions for the economy to develop, to thrive, for the businesses to want to do activities in the country. So this is like the basis of the growth of the economy, of the development of a society. So this is very important for Ukraine. And we still have some leftovers of legacy of previous governments, and still maybe leftovers of in some parts before the invasion of sometimes Soviet mentality, and so we are rooting it out. So the government is fighting corruption even right now during the war. There are some instances where the activists or the government, they find out any wrongdoings. So I mean the actions are swift. So those individuals are immediately removed and prosecuted, because in the society there is zero tolerance towards any corruption or any wrongdoings, especially right now during the war, when the whole country is united to defend the enemy. And so of course it's important. Ukraine, even before the invasion, was doing those reforms And for example, the asset declarations in Ukraine is one of the most transparent one in the world. I don't know where the same one like in Ukraine exists. So everything is online except for very private details of where, for example, your property is located. But what kind of property, what do you own? It's all online. Every government officials, they have to do it on a regular basis. Right now, during the war, it's been postponed, but it will be shortly resumed. Even during the war, the appropriate law is in the parliament of Ukraine right now, because this is all necessary steps for us, because we are at one, and we're fighting the war, fighting the Russia's invasion. But on the other front, we are moving rapidly in the direction of joining the European Union. We received the invitation, became a candidate country to join the European Union. And there are a number of requirements that we have to implement. And we're doing it even during the fighting. The parliament passes laws, the government prepares necessary changes. So because for us, I mean, the route is obvious. I mean, we're defeating the enemy. We're moving and joining European Union and NATO. That's the future for Ukraine. And for us to be able to do it, I mean, we can't wait till we win and then do it. We have to do everything at the same time.
That's one of the things that's powerful about the things that entrepreneurs can do in the integrating together, like building solutions together. I know we've had 3 other programs over the last year and a half, in these 18 months of the war, where 3 different times we've heard from Ukrainian entrepreneurs. And so, and we have some of them watching online via via LinkedIn. I'm getting some notes over there as I look up. When y'all see me looking up to the screens over here, I'm trying to, integrate some of the communications that are happening. So it's powerful stuff. I think the thing that we'll do is we'll make sure that that we spend time on creating more of those integration events, because we can do that virtually. It's the time to do it is right now, and it's important to get that in place so that we can actually go further. Let me ask you, what is there anything else that comes to mind that before we start taking some questions and I weave in some of the different thoughts that are being said on the platforms that you'd like to say, like any other areas that I might have missed that you'd like to go over before we hop in?
I mean, we just mentioned one of the, potential areas where Ukraine is strong, where Ukraine wants to, continue to do business with the world. We just touched the innovation sphere and the IT sector, I think. But, there are other, very promising areas where Ukraine can offer a lot for the business community. And I mean, since we are in Texas and I'm physically in Houston, so energy sector is also one of the main areas where Ukraine expects to attract investors. Not many people realize and know that before 1960s, Ukraine was supplying gas for the whole Soviet Union before the Siberia reserves were discovered, and then they were just abandoned. So, but they're still there. Ukraine, after Norway, has the 2nd largest reserves of natural gas in Europe. And so we have plenty, not just for ourselves, but also to export. Ukraine has the largest gas storage system in the world, and it's located in the western Ukraine. And so Ukraine plans to be a hub for the countries of Europe. So they will be able to produce a lot of our natural gas, store it in our storages, and then, give access to this gas to the neighboring countries in Europe, and will enhance security of Ukraine and enhance energy security of the world, because there is no going back to the previous energy security model of Europe after this war. The train has left the station. There is no big place for Russia energy nowhere in the world. So the realization in the world has come that energy security is not just words, they mean something, and that you have to be ready for events like that when a big energy supplier becomes an aggressor and uses energy as a weapon. We were saying about Russia using energy as a weapon many years ago, when Russia used it against us before by switching off gas supplies to Ukraine. But nobody believed that it would happen to them. They thought, you know, it will never happen to us, maybe just to Ukraine, but never to us. But unfortunately, the following events proved everybody wrong and us right. And so now the realization, came that a lot of things has to change. And so there is a great potential, and we're talking actively with energy companies here in Texas about working together in Ukraine. And we're talking not just about oil and gas, we're talking about future fuels as well, such as hydrogen, use of ammonia, also nuclear power, and we have a lot of nuclear production in Ukraine as well. And so energy is big, but also cooperation in space. We are one of 12 nations globally that do space research, that have their own satellites and launch them into space. There are only 12 countries in the world that do that. And just prior to the Russia's invasion in January of 2022, we launched our satellite together with Elon Musk on his Falcon from Florida. And it was happening just weeks before invasion happened. So there's also great potential to work here. So just to put it here. But what I would like to say today, because of the special day today, it's Independence Day, we want to, first of all, to thank our army, our soldiers, that enables us to continue to be a country, enables us to live freely, to have this independence, to celebrate today's independence. But it wouldn't be possible without the support of our allies. We wouldn't be here today if not for the United States, if not for our European allies and other countries, because the contact group that regularly meets in Ramstein, Germany, and discusses different military support for Ukraine has more than 50 countries in it. So it's bigger than NATO. So it's not just the West against Russia, it's bigger. There are other countries in Asia as well supporting Ukraine. And so today, on Ukraine's Independence Day, I want to say thank you. Thank you for supporting us. I can tell you that every old lady in Ukraine, every babushka, she knows which country is providing what to Ukraine. Everybody became a military expert. They know, what the names of the weapon, what's the difference between them. Unfortunately, that's the reality. And just to, once again tell you that Ukraine, every person in Ukraine is very grateful to all of our allies for the support.
Amen. Thank you for that. And this is part of why, even though this might be a program about entrepreneurship, I think the thing that we have to recognize, since we're entrepreneurs that are aware of the world and what might be possible for the future that we could bring together with working together, first to dealing with this injustice, it's my honor to be here with you. Let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and share some of the different things that are being said across the network. We've had a number of different comments, and if you're interested in asking a question, we do have one person from one of the states of Germany represented that might end up saying something about how German industry has been affected by the gas war. We have a gentleman from Moldova that might have a moment to say something as well. So let me just kind of warn you guys that y'all might want something to say. Boris Portman, who is one of them, he's been in Austin for a long time. He says, Slava Ukraini, I am sorry to have to drop off the call, but I look forward to the recording. Appreciate Kevin and Vitalii for the great a great and timely talk. I'm proud to be a fellow Ukrainian and Austin entrepreneur. There's already a lot of connections between even Austin and Ukraine, not to mention Texas and Ukraine. So great to see that connection. Irma Clavely, who's based out of Dallas, she's the president and CEO of the European American Chamber of Commerce. She says, happy Ukrainian Independence Day, Vitalii, in Ukraine. The European American Chamber of Commerce of Texas supports you. Chris Lynch is who's one of our colleagues that runs the International Accelerator in California, mentioned Slava Ukraini. So thank you, Chris. Chris and I have been exploring different programs to like USAID programs to go after to support building a bridge, especially during the reconstruction time. I know that there are a couple different the questions. I'm going to go ahead and take Richard.
Hey, Daniela, hast du 2 Minuten für mich?
Yeah, if you go right ahead, Sean.
Wegen der Delegation, also Juli und ich waren persönlich im Gespräch mit dem Herrn Dr. Dengel im DFKI und wir haben damals persönlich gesagt, eine Delegation kommt am 18. oder 19. Also
Hey, Sean, are you able to?
Auf den
In German, I'm wondering.
Ich habe verstanden, dass der Julian.
Okay, I didn't know if I think Sean actually wants to say something. We'll when he's available in just a second. He was on camera and then he went off camera. One of the things that Sean was telling me is the gas war that's happening in Germany is definitely been really destructive to German industry. And he mentioned a few days ago when he knew this program was going to happen, that he said he had something to be able to say. Well, as soon as he comes on, we'll see him on camera. Richard Barrett says, what does the Ukrainian startup incubator ecosystem look like right now? Are there specific regions in the world that might empathize with Ukrainian entrepreneurs? Lots of challenges for entrepreneurs at play that might not be present in other countries. Are there a couple different maybe incubators that since we're a group of entrepreneurs that we might focus our energies towards?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, well, there are I will start that traditionally, well, and it's obvious that the ecosystem of entrepreneurs and startups, it emerges where there's lots of students, where lots of universities. And so that usually tends to be big cities in Ukraine. And traditionally, so this system, was forming and is developing in the capital, in Kiev, then in a big city to the north, Kharkiv, that is heavily shelled right now, and part of the city is completely destroyed. And the other big part is Lviv. That's one of the most western cities of Ukraine. And specifically with Lviv, I would say that due to its, also, good universities, but also location to closer to the west and in infrastructure, a lot of companies, they are opening working spaces and open their offices there and hire IT specialists to work for them there, because the cost of living is relatively lower than it's in other places, but the available of knowledge and specialists is very high. So I would say those three would be one of the most active places where the IT sector develops: Kyiv, Kharkiv, and Lviv. But also, obviously, in other big cities like Odessa in the south of Ukraine, there is also its ecosystem where there are lots of entrepreneurs there as well. In terms of startups, in terms of incubators and things like that, when I was based in Washington, I know that you have in Texas other incubators like Capital Factory, yourselves, Tech Ranch as well. But in Washington, there was an incubator, I remember, with the name 7076. obviously, the birth of a nation. And we have a similar incubator in Ukraine with the name 1991. Also when Ukraine regained its independence. There are others as well, but this is at least already existing for quite some time.
That's beautiful. Well, what I'll do is, so for the audience that's listening, we have kind of an informal program called a country manager program. At this point, we don't have an official Ukrainian country manager. There's been a number of different Ukrainians, and with the war happening, and since there's been so much shifting, if there is someone in the community that would actually like to step into that role about helping build this bridge, even before there's resources, like I mentioned earlier, Chris Lynch and myself and a few others have organized to see how we can go after USAID funds to be able to support, like to build out what a true venture bridge, like the Tech Ranch style venture bridge work looks like. Even before that, if there's someone that'd like to volunteer, or I'd like to hear more about our country manager program to even facilitate that, because part of what we're needing in creating these tentacles into Ukraine to support more Ukrainian entrepreneurs is to have someone help support that. So if there is someone listening that's interested in that, let us know. Let's we're going to switch. I happen to have a chance to talk to one of Ukraine's neighbors over in Moldova. He's in Chișinău. I'm going to mispronounce all these names, but I promise I do it with American names as well, since I'm dyslexic. But Christian Cernu is a entrepreneurial leader in the capital of Moldova, and I just thought, since we happen to be getting a chance to talk to him and as we're building some bridges into that part of the world as well, Christian, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then give us like a minute or two, just kind of really quick, kind of what's your perspective, especially being a neighbor to Ukraine.
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Vitalii, for sharing all the experiences from Ukraine, and congratulations on the Independence Day. I believe this means even more now during the war than probably it did before. It definitely does for us. We share a lot of the challenges and a lot of the dreams with Ukraine, although we thankfully don't share the moment the very deep pain that Ukraine has, including one of the things that we share is a very close Independence Day. Ours is on Sunday, so we are also close in these regards. And well, I believe we have a lot of very close connections, and even though Moldova is not one of the richest countries or the strongest military that Ukraine is the most help with, I hope that our contribution with the refugees at the beginning especially was felt. We try to open with open arms everyone, and we still are. A bit of context about myself to understand a bit where I'm coming from. I'm working for a project funded by USAID, funded by the American state, trying to help the entrepreneurship in Moldova. And we work a lot with the startup communities. We work a lot with the incubators here locally. And I've joined this actually after the war has started. So I've seen it more as a challenge to help in these times, especially when it's the hardest. For the entrepreneurs here in Moldova, it has not been easy, and the efforts to sustain the startups here have also been quite intense. I'm very happy to share, by the way, based on some of the questions earlier about the incubators in Ukraine. We had two programs over the last years with two different incubators from Ukraine. One is EO Incubator, actually founded in collaboration with an American person. So there's a lot of connections between the countries, and we had a local Moldovan incubator with the Ukrainian incubator coming together to offer this program for the entrepreneurs across the countries. There's also another two sister organizations between Ukraine and Moldova called YEP, which are offering a lot of the knowledge to the students in Ukraine and in Moldova. And they had a lot of the shared programs again for Moldovan and Ukrainian people. So I'm very happy to have these collaborations. And I believe the challenges that our entrepreneurs are facing are close, if not the same, as the ones that the Ukrainian entrepreneurs face. In considering the period and the context of the region, we felt it probably the closest to Ukraine as any country, as we are a non-NATO country, we are a non-EU country, and we're very thankful for the Ukrainian bravery that you stand your ground. I remember at the beginning of the war, we were considering every day if we should or shouldn't evacuate from Moldova as well, because it was the intensity was very strong of what we felt.
Let me do this, since I really don't want to interrupt, but I know that we have a number of people that are already signaling to me that are just about to leave. But Christian, thank you for that. The main thing about it is I was really moved a few weeks ago when you and I met about the sheer number of Ukrainian refugees that Moldova supported. And so I want to say on the behalf of them, and just as as a person who's just concerned for the refugees around the world, thank you for that. And we'll have Christian, and we're gonna back on one of these times and stuff like that. And obviously this bricolage, this network of different connections about how we connect, and like as a peer-to-peer level, entrepreneur to entrepreneur, that's where real power is. And so thank you for joining us, Christian. What we'll do is we'll start wrapping things up as we finish up the hour today, and we'll have you come back very soon. And happy to have your entrepreneurs on with us as well. I look forward to hearing a little bit more about what they're up to as well. So, well, so let me just mention a couple other things that are happening with different people who are watching. I'm going to mispronounce this word, but Robert Warren, who runs a incubator up in Canada, in Alberta, Canada, or Manitoba, Canada. Sorry, Robert. He just said on the LinkedIn stream, he said, "Den nezali hosti Ukraini." And so I probably butchered that, Vitalii. I apologize, but you just want to keep on. I mean, it's great that we have people from Canada, people from Germany, obviously Texas, the UK, New Zealand. It looks like Sean's back from his call a while ago. Sean, if you wanted to say something really quick in support of the state that you're having, we're just about to wrap up, and so I want to be sensitive to that really quick. But if you had a question or you wanted to hop in with a question or two, I just let us know real quick.
Dziękuję, что вы тут.
Дякую.
Yeah, I'm Sean. I represent the German federal state of Rhineland-Pfalz in Austin, Texas, and serve as the foreign trade business representative for the state of Rhineland-Pfalz. I work in economic development, foreign trade. I connected with Kevin from Tech Ranch early on in order to better capture and serve kind of the international interests in entrepreneurism, business development in the direction of Austin, due to the fact that our Ministry of Economics has foreign trade offices in Poland, Vietnam, Israel, Rwanda, and China, as well as Austin. If there are any opportunities that might connect Ukraine with Austin, or Ukraine with Germany, as well as Israel, I'm happy to make those connections. Sometimes what we find is in international collaboration, there's opportunities to accelerate the collaborations geographically or at an international level. For example, a topic of many countries right now, especially delegations that come to Texas, is energy and infrastructure. And Kevin and I have discussed a current project from Rheinland-Pfalz, which is taking municipal waste, contaminated waste in landfills, and non-recyclable plastics and problem plastics like the Tetra Pak containers in Europe that are typically incinerated, and converting that trash into hydrogen. And there's a company from Rheinland-Pfalz that is interested in entering the US and establishing hydrogen projects, but at the same time, they would be interested in other locations as well, if those connections can be made with the right people. So we exchange information, Kevin and I exchange information a lot on how to kind of accelerate business expansion internationally. So I appreciate being able to listen in on this call. In terms of the
Well, let's do
political,
this, Sean. What I think you kind of targeted the thing that I wanted to show. The main thing about it is a lot of times, from the position that I sit in about getting to see all these different countries and a lot of sort of stuff, you know, from humble beginnings of a handful of connections, part of what that the main story that I want to make sure that we land with today is this idea that we can surround the needs of Ukraine and actually support them long term. And then the same thing is learn something from Ukraine, like the digital citizenry app that that Vitalii was sharing earlier. Like this is how we do it. You know, when I sometimes people over the last 20 years that I've been saying all the world's problems have been solved about connecting entrepreneur with solution to market with problem. You know, this represents it. The thing that Sean's mentioning as well is another really great example about, hey, let's take waste and let's turn it into hydrogen, and then hydrogen can be used as a, you know, one of the other energy sources, since we're having so many different energy problems, even here in Texas. What I'll do is let me go ahead and say we'll have Sean back, and I'll make sure that those connections are there. A lot of times right after these programs, people say, hey, will you introduce me to Sean? That project sounds interesting. Or will you introduce me to Vitalii? And my mailbox gets filled. But part of what will happen is on the community site for the next, excuse me, on the community site, there will be a place. That's my sign that I've been talking too much. On the community site, there will be a place for everyone to be able to interact. And typically, I'm going to ask, more than likely, Vitalii himself as the general consul of Ukraine. He won't be on there, but I'll ask one of his staffers. He had a staffer that helped us set up some stuff earlier named Sandy that will actually we'll ask to kind of field some of the questions and connections from here on out, and as we bring things to a wrap. Vitalii, let me go back to you. And
Yes,
say,
thank
yeah,
you.
I'd like to go ahead and give you a place to go ahead and say some closing words, and then I'll have a few slides, and then we'll close up for the day.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I just quickly, react to the Christian and the Sean's comments. First on Christian, yeah, I mean, we really appreciate the support of Moldova, and we will be also with you for as long as it takes. And if not for the Ukrainian bravery and desire to defend ourselves, we all know that Russia's ambitions would not be stopped only in Ukraine, because their ambitions is not just the restoring initial ambitions, not just restoring Soviet Union, but even going back to restoring the Russian Empire that goes beyond the borders of the Soviet Union. That's the initial plan. And so, I mean, with Ukraine's fighting, we're not defending just ourselves, not just our independence, not just our freedom, but also of our neighbors, but also of European integrity, and also even going further, the democracy in the world and the rule-based world, based on the international order that existed before, that international laws should mean something, that sovereignty of a state means something and should be protected, and democracies should be uniting together in protecting themselves. Because the tyrannies are also uniting in trying to destroy democracies. So we as well have to be united even more than them. And to Sean's, Sean, you have a great representation here. A good friend of mine, Consul General of Germany, Guy Hennig, and we work closely with him. He's a good friend, but I would be happy to connect with the business association that you have and to explore the projects, especially the ones that you mentioned about the, making the land clean from different harmful substances. I launched, or in the process, I would say, launching a project here with Texas A&M universities on demining agricultural land. And they have an experience like that, because it's not only about the mines itself, but also about the metal objects from shelling and from chemicals that end up in the earth after the war, when the landfill was bombed, or things like that. So we work on that actively, and there is huge area where we need to work even more. So we'd be happy to connect and discuss the possibilities of working on this and other projects as well. And just maybe to quickly, Kevin, to wrap up, the initial idea of us coming here and opening the consulate in Houston is to do projects, economic projects, to foster business relations between the areas of our responsibility. And I'm responsible for 7 US states of Southwest region and Ukraine. And there is numerous possibilities that we would like to work on, even during the war, even right now, but even more after we win this, and we will be doing the reconstruction and rebuilding of Ukraine.
That's beautiful. Well, we're honored to get to be a part of that, and I look forward to supporting Ukraine, trying more entrepreneurial projects between our countries and then around the world. And I thank you for everyone that's been on and that shared both on the streams. And I'm sorry that I didn't get to all the streams. By the way, the software that we're using is called Restream, and it was built by Ukrainians. So that runs our show every week. So thank you to them as well for that. What we'll do is we'll wrap up a little bit more. Like I said, on the community site, if you want to be a part of the community and you've only heard this for the first time, you can go to techranch.com/connect. And there is a place to show up and join the community. There's no charge for joining the community. We do have programs that are pay to play programs later on, but the truth is we want to have the access to the network be free. That way, entrepreneurs that are even in really difficult situations can grab the on-ramp onto this. And this isn't a replacement for local programs that are happening in each one of your countries. This is more of how can we actually build those connections. I want to go ahead and mention one thing really quick. David Nichols, who's a Texas entrepreneur that happens to live in the Czech Republic right now, has been driving a series of activities. One of them is called Invest in Bravery, and the next event will be in Kyiv, Ukraine, on October 19, 2023. And you can read a little bit more about it. We will have information on the Tech Ranch events calendar, so you can look there as well. And there will be a link directly to this page in the show notes for today. So if you want to follow up, and whether you would like to participate virtually or go to Kyiv directly to be a part of the brave entrepreneurs that are driving such change and supporting them, this is a great way to do it. There will be both, in person and hybrid online type of participation as well. It's really important in the words of MLK, echoing the quote that we had from Marcus Aurelius: "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." It's important that we remember Martin Luther King Jr.'s words as we reflect on these things about, entrepreneurs. I get sick of the tech bros who just sort of take what we have for granted and then destroy what's there. We have to remember that we have to fight for the what makes it possible for us to be entrepreneurs. And I'd like to, in honor of all the fallen soldiers that needlessly lost their lives in Ukraine, we'll celebrate a woman named Svetlana Soletska. This is a picture of her. May they rest in peace. May they rest in power. And so It's a needless war. It's destructive. It's stupid. It needs to be ended quickly. And, maybe this is the most American thing that I might say. We should make business, not war. All right. Well, with that, what we'll do is if you haven't signed up for the community yet, go to techranch.com/connect. And like I said, we'd like to connect with you. We'd like to make sure that there's an on-ramp. I will be immediately after this going to the Mexican consulate to connect with some entrepreneurs from Mexico. And then later today, we'll be at the Ukrainian consulate and celebration of Ukrainian Independence Day. So yes, I will be in Houston later today. I'm real excited to be with Vitalii and to raise a glass of, I assume, vodka or whatever the most appropriate thing to do to celebrate Ukrainian Independence Day. But just in closing, it is absolutely my honor to be a part of a community of entrepreneurs that are driven by vision and values. Let's go change the world for the better together. Y'all take good care, and Slava Ukraini.
Героям